BeastNet podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeastNet.
This is Lisa from BeastNet podcast, and we're talking to Ryann Kress. Tell me a little bit about how your year's been, a little bit about yourself as Miss Wheelchair.
Sure. So like you said, my name is Ryann Kress. I am a 29-year-old disability advocate. I am Miss Wheelchair Virginia 2020 and 2021. Thank you, COVID. I am a registered nurse. Coming to you live from the hospital because I live here. I've worked all the way through COVID, the whole nine, so it's been a journey. And I am an adaptive athlete. I am a weightlifter and wheelchair basketball and pretty much anything else you throw at me. I'm going to attempt to do it, especially if you tell me that I cannot.
That's like the one challenge for people. Oh, you can't do it. Oh, okay. I'll prove you wrong. Sure.
Let's see. We'll see about that.
How has this year been for you as Miss Wheelchair, since you're going into 2021 as well? What's this next year looking like? Or is it still kind of tentative because of how things are going?
It's been pretty crazy. So 2020 was my first reign, and so I did half my year pretty normal. Did a lot of speaking engagements, a lot of educational tours and stuff like that, just talking about disability advocacy, about I speak a lot about adaptive sports, and then getting more disabled bodies in healthcare field. And then I had to quickly kind of adapt, and everything switched to Zoom very quickly. Lots and lots of Zoom appearances and podcasts and online interviews and that kind of thing. And then this year, it's seeming like it's going to be a mixture of both. I just did my first appearance Saturday for a women's conference, and that was a hybrid conference. So like we were on stage and we were in this completely empty auditorium and broadcasting it to Zoom. So like every time, like I have a really dry sense of humor. So I'm like, I would say something and expect people to laugh and like, oh, that's right. They're in the computer. Okay. So that was definitely interesting, but it's been kind of cool to get to like attend way more events than I would be able to do in person just with my job and the constraints that way. So that's been really awesome. And to get to appear like all over the world as well as the nation, just with time zones and stuff that I would not be able to do if it was all in person again. So it has pluses and minuses for sure.
That's awesome. And as for being an adaptive athlete, do you have any events or anything like that coming up?
So yes, but not scheduled yet. Last year was supposed to be my very, very, very first Spartan race with my team, More Hearts and Scars.
Yep.
That was definitely supposed to be last year, but didn't happen. So it's being rescheduled for this year. So I've been training for the past 2 years and just kind of waiting to get out there. So Zach and I are working on that now.
Yay!
So,
what Spartan race is it tentatively might be? Do you know?
No, he is supposed to get back to me on that one because I was like, I'll go anywhere. I don't care. Let's go. I am going to assume probably the one hosted up in Wintergreen just because it's close to where I live, but we'll see.
That's awesome. Yay! Have you done any other OCRs, or are you just kind of waiting for the Spartan race?
No, I haven't done any. I am a brand newbie. I've gone out and trained with More Hearts and Scars and everything with the team and done that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
no, it is brand new to me. I'm excited.
Oh, you're going to be so hooked.
I felt already now. I'm like, this is such a problem. As soon as I met the team, I'm like, oh no, they're all my kind of people. This is bad. I found another thing to be obsessed with.
Oh yeah, it's an obsession. I've been doing it for 7 years, and this last year, not having any races, I'm itching. I want to go race so bad. I'm like, come on, open up.
Everyone is. We're like, okay, let's go. Come on.
So you do weightlifting. Do you compete with that, or is it just for fun, for strength training?
It's for strength time. So it started out like if you had told me probably 10, not even 10, 10 years ago that I would do anything athletic, be in a gym, anything, like I would have laughed my tail off. I was a ballerina. I was a dancer. I did not lift weights. I did not run. I didn't do anything. I was like, no, there's no way. I'd been in physical therapy my entire life because I have something called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, where all of my collagen and basically the glue that holds my body together is really stretchy. My skin is super stretchy. My joints dislocate really easily. And so basically when you get that diagnosis, they're like, okay, you have to live in a bubble. And like, so I've been in physical therapy since I was 10. And I started, I guess it was back in 2017. I was like, you know what? My ex got a gym membership. Let me just go. And I was like, I can't do free weights. I can't do anything like that. I can only do machines because of my range of motion being so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And one of the other issues is we have trouble seeing where our bodies are in space because our joints just keep going.
Yeah.
so easy to injure yourself that I was terrified. So I just never tried it. And I slowly started incorporating more and more and more. And now my joints have benefited so much. Now, I've had my fair share of injuries. I am very good at relocating joints. Luckily, I'm an ER nurse by trade, so that works out nicely. So I started lifting and doing all that just for my health, and then quickly became addicted and attempted powerlifting at one point, which is the very opposite of what any EDS patient should ever try to do. But, I'm a very go big or go home kind of person. So, but now it's kind of settled in and training for my upcoming season. If we get to compete again, I am play wheelchair basketball with a team out here in Roanoke, the Roanoke Stars. And so that is what I'm training for because I am the only female on the team.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, it's so much fun for me. Yeah, that's probably my biggest thing is training for that. And then at the same time taking on the role of spectator this year, because normally I am the one competing and I am one of my spotlight, but this year my girlfriend is training to qualify for the Paralympics in Tokyo. So
oh, that's fantastic.
yeah, she's training on hand cycle. So I am learning what it's like to be the head of the fan club. So it's
Is
cool.
that pretty defined switch for you from being the competitor to being the spectator?
Definitely. Yeah, I tend to find myself in the spotlight for one reason or another since I was a kid, whether it's public speaking or dance or sports now. And it's kind of cool to like take a step back and to learn a sport that I know nothing about because with my hips dislocate too easily, I was never able to be a cyclist at all, like except when I was a really little kid.
Yeah.
So helping her train and pretending like I can keep up with her has been a lot of fun for sure. Yeah, and I have a built-in trainer, so she's stuck with me.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
With the basketball, do you guys travel to other places? Like how far do you guys travel team-wise?
So we have struggled trying to get enough people together to actually have a team to continue to compete. But when we are able to, and what we're looking for, we travel all up and down the East Coast for games. And we do a lot more. We find ourselves doing a lot more education and going out and hosting clinics at local colleges and just getting the community involved and aware that, hey, adaptive sports do exist. And, just because I am a wheelchair user doesn't mean that I can't also be an athlete, because people see the chair and they just automatically think hospital sterility, like there's
that stigma that's there. It's like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, wait a minute, but they can. I think that's the best part of like seeing people in Spartan races, like even with more hearts than scars. I've seen some absolutely incredible adaptive athletes that it's humbling to me to see them. I'm like, well, shoot, I need to step
Right?
up my game. But it's incredible because there's that stigma needs to be beaten down, I guess is the best way to put it, because there are a lot of kids that I think they feel stifled because, oh, well, I have this disability, but is it really a disability or just not getting that support and that knowledge like, oh, there are people that are they're athletic, they're doing the things that I just wish I could do. So that's incredible
Yeah,
that you guys are out there advocating for that. Is
yeah,
that something you're using with your platform as
definitely.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So this year, last year, I kind of stuck to my platform of, getting more disabled bodies in healthcare and that kind of thing. But I've kind of learned this whole advocacy platform as I go, and I'm kind of developing it and realizing that, oh, this is going to definitely be a lifelong thing, not just while I'm this wheelchair. And so I started out as trying to advocate for better mental health resources for people I started with just mobility limiting disabilities, because that's
Yeah.
like the one thing I knew. I was like, all right, I can affect this. And then it's kind of grown to incorporate, just more education, especially about adaptive sports. I live in Southwestern Virginia, the middle of nowhere land, and my Instagram is blowing up with physical therapists, occupational therapists in the area. They're like, hey, I have a kid, they're a new wheelchair user, and they're not adapting well. They don't, they don't know anybody like them. They don't know, no one around them looks like them. You don't see us in the media much. And then two, like, these are kids that, where I live in Roanoke, we have a lot of gun violence. And so it's a lot of times, gang violence, people who are very athletic prior to their accident. And it was a very violent way to take away their mobility. And so getting them involved in something, especially like basketball, which for most of them, they've been playing their entire lives. And to show them like, hey, there's a whole bunch of us who do play, and, we're not just sitting at home wasting away and being super disabled.
Yeah.
Not doing anything. Like, there's just so many more opportunities. I've been involved with wheelchair basketball for years now, and I had no idea until I was Miss Wheelchair. I went to Sportable in Richmond, did a adaptive sports festival, and so I got to try all kinds of stuff I didn't know existed. There was a wheelchair fencing, there was rugby, like anything you could possibly want. They have figured out a way to adapt it to whatever your needs may be.
That's amazing. Wheelchair fencing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's phenomenal.
Wow. So cool. Like, to see them do it at the Olympic level, I'm just like, they move so quickly. Like, I can't. How did you just do that? It's nuts.
That's insane, but so awesome to know that they're making sure that every sport basically has an adaptation to it. And that's so awesome to see, and to have that platform to advocate for it, put it out there more, get more people involved. That's also incredible. With the mental health side of it, what resources do you have you found that can really help those who are adaptive athletes?
Definitely. So it definitely depends on your sport. A lot of sports have kind of their own way of doing things, but around here, we have several groups that meet, and then we are really, really active. One in the Southwestern Virginia area is called Wheel Love, and it's just a bunch of us that we love being outside, and we love getting out and doing something, trying new sports. Last winter, before COVID hit, we all went skiing. I had not been skiing since I was in a chair, and so I loved to ski when I was able-bodied. So I was like, all right, let's try this. Terrifying and amazing all at the same time. So good.
That's awesome.
Like, you're sitting in a bucket and you're attached to one ski, and you just kind of got to balance.
Oh, that's so fantastic, though. Like, you're able to participate with the winter sports and doing the things that you were able to do before. So, like, that's awesome. You're not.
We did it up in Snowshoe in West Virginia, and they have the Challenged Athletes of West Virginia, and they meet and they take kids out and they go and take them skiing and everything, and just getting them out and getting them surrounded by adults who have similar, if not the same, disabilities that they do, and getting them exposed to these role models that are we're not these picture perfect little figureheads that you see sometimes on, social media or on Instagram. Like you can't tell. People only show the good side of everything. And so
Right.
like getting out there and just getting these kids that normally, wouldn't open up about the mental health side of dealing with disability or just, dealing with being a kid,
Yeah.
are able to open up and relate to these other athletes and these adults that they now look up to as, okay, well, if they're doing it and they're twice my age, like, then I could definitely do this. And they usually come up and like completely, if we're on the basketball court, completely kick our butts. And it's hilarious because we're all just like, all right, now you have to join the team. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are there resources in all states for adaptive athletes and like especially kids that don't even realize that there are sports out there? Is there a place where they can go to find like a directory of
Yes.
who to reach out to?
Definitely. So the best way I know, because each state is a little bit different, but the Challenge Athletes Foundation, CAF, out of the California area, they've compiled a nationwide directory of all of these different adaptive sporting resources, and that's how I got in touch with several in my area. Other than that, just it's a lot of word of mouth, a lot of checking out local rehab hospitals that people don't think about doing. A lot of the rehab hospitals in states that are, where these kids are going to learn how to reuse their bodies again, or learn how to adapt to vision loss, hearing loss, wheelchair use, they will have all of the contacts of the local sporting teams. But then also, if there's anybody on at least the East Coast, they can definitely reach out to me on my platform, Chronically Rye, and I would be happy to get them in touch with people from all across the nation. If my job in the hospital, I work as a case manager, and I basically problem solve all day long, and I carry it over into my time off. And so I love like hooking people up in other states. I constantly get people in my inbox, and they're like, "Hey, I'm really interested in basketball, but I don't live in Virginia." And I'm like, "Hold on, I got where you live. Okay, I got somebody there. Let me get you." So yeah, I think that's been the best part of being this wheelchair, is getting to kind of do that for so many other people and be the person that I needed when I was first diagnosed, for sure.
That's fantastic. And you were trying to get more people, your focus last year was more adaptive healthcare workers. And how is that going for you? Did like
It was crazy. So like I said, I was an ER nurse, and I worked ER trauma for the first 5-6 years of my nursing career, until my disability had kind of degenerated to the point where I required the wheelchair. And so I had to leave the bedside and kind of, I took myself away from the bedside, because I just have that kind of personality that I know that if I'm there and I'm in the ER and I'm not yet comfortable as a wheelchair user, I'm not yet at that time comfortable, getting around in that chair, I know that a trauma or some kind of emergency is going to bust through those doors, and I'm going to jump out of the chair, forget completely, and follow my dad. So before that could happen, I started getting, not fearful for my safety, but I was fearful, like, what if the next time I fall, Granny's on my arm or something like that. So a patient was with me.
yeah.
So I took a step away from the bedside and took a job as a case manager, where I do a lot of discharge planning, setting up medical equipment, getting people in touch with rehabs, all kinds of stuff like that, which is something that I'd had case managers my entire life, being a career patient. So I was like, all right, I can handle this. And so through that, I've gotten to kind of tie all of my loves of, nursing as a whole, but then also disability advocacy, because nobody ever expects their nurse to roll in a wheelchair. And they're just like, I'm sorry, what? What is this? Like, I think you need to be in the bed more than I do. Like, what? Why? And I love it, because I'm a completely open book about my disability and my chair.
Oh. Where did it go?
Elephant in the room. Oh,
I'm here.
The elephant in the room, I might as well cover it in rainbows. And if you want to ask me about it, go ahead. I'd rather you ask me than some stranger on the street that's just gone through some like traumatic issue with their disability.
Yeah. What platforms have you been using to help get more adaptive healthcare workers in?
So I I started out just kind of thinking, hey, there has to be more people out here that are in this situation. I know that there are other nurses with disabilities. So I turned to my beloved Instagram and was just like, posting my story. So I started, that Instagram was just kind of like a place for me to vent about my disability as it slowly worsened. I shared it with like my family. That was it.
Yeah.
And it suddenly just picked up steam. And while I was sharing the fact that I was a nurse, people kind of came out of the woodwork who were in the exact same position I was, whether they had started nursing school disabled or become disabled somewhere in it. And so and we all had the same kind of story, which is as soon as the chair enters the situation, suddenly it's like all of our nursing knowledge was tied to our legs and we're no longer able to work as nurses. No one wants to hire us. And it's not because, we're not able to complete the tasks. When COVID came through, I wanted to prove to myself that I was still able to do the job. And so I took volunteered for some shifts as a volunteer, as a tech on the floor, just, taking vital signs, helping change patients, doing all of that kind of stuff. And realized, wait, I am still completely able to do everything that I could standing from my chair. I have done CPR from my chair. I have rolled patients, flipped patients, pushed stretchers, the whole nine. But because it's something that just isn't seen and it's not the norm, we're automatically just like, oh no, we can't hire you. This is not normal. This isn't what we're used to. So I found the National Organization of Nurses with Disabilities, and I'm actually now a board member. I'm the social media and web design chair for this crazy national organization that is made up of all these healthcare workers that are going through the exact same thing that I went through, whether it's with, whatever their disability is, a chair, vision lost. We have a lot of limb difference nurses, and we get together and we find ways to work with students come out of the woodwork and they're like, hey, I want to know if this is even possible. I've always wanted to be a nurse, but I have cerebral palsy and I'm in a wheelchair. Is it even something that I can do? And we said, absolutely. As long as you have the drive and the willingness to put the work in, you absolutely can be a nurse and can work in healthcare. And so we are helping to kind of break down that stigma. And I'm doing it because I'm the only one in my area that's kind of doing that kind of thing in my local hospitals. So I tend to, through Miss Wheelchair, pick up speaking events and everything specifically to medical practitioners. So whether they're med school students, I just did a district physical therapy association. And so doing those, I get to not only teach like, hey, people with disabilities can absolutely work in healthcare, and we're a vital resource because we know what it's like to be that patient laying in the bed, and we know what it's like, what it feels like when you don't understand any of the medical jargon that's being thrown at you, and every single person is just in a big white coat and leaning down over you.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest feedback I get from my patients is they're like, you're the first person that came in here and talked to me like a human that I knew you knew what I was going through, and you like looked me in the eye and got on my level. I'm like, well, I can't really help it. That's the only level I have. But and so it's been awesome because then if I'm speaking to these healthcare practitioners, I'm also getting to answer their questions about what it's like living with these disabilities and how they can then work as better healthcare practitioners and work with us, and showing them, hey, do you have any younger patients? Here are some adaptive sporting resources.
That's fantastic. So
When
you
I
kind of do both at the same time.
Together. Yeah, when I started, I was like, I have so many interests and I don't know what I'm doing. And it's finally like, oh wait, no, it's all coming together. It's all right.
That's fantastic. With your first Spartan race, fingers crossed, coming up this year, what are you most excited about with that?
I think I'm most excited, one, to get out on the course with the team, because I have never met a group of people that I was instantly just like, oh, hello, I have found my family. Okay. They're all absolutely insane and I adore them. I got to be with them while when they were on the Micros Facebook Live.
Oh, yes. returning the favor. That's awesome.
I was there as the newbie who was supposed to be just meeting the group, and because Zach found me on the internet and was like, "Hey, like you're insane, and I think you would fit in." I'm like, "Okay, all right. I've never done anything like this before in my entire life. Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, come on, just come meet the crew, and if you hate it, you hate it. Fine." I was like, "All right." He's like, "Yeah, we're supposed to be filming this documentary, so it might be a little weird, but you'll at least get to meet everybody." And because he had no idea. So like, okay. And so I get up there, we're having a great time. The next morning we wake up and I'm like, look at Erica. I'm like, "Hey, that's Mike Rowe." "No, it's not. No, it's not. No, we're just filming. He just looks like him. It's fine. No, it's not." "Yeah, okay, yeah, it was." That was my intro to them. I'm just like, well, I've been through that with you guys. Let's go. But I think I'm most excited because, growing up as a dancer and being a ballerina and having this disability where everyone treated me like, I was in a bubble. It is the one thing that I always thought I would never be capable of doing. And if it wasn't for, a team like More Hearts and Scars, there's no way that I could without, the adaptive equipment. But just to finally get myself out there and prove to myself that like, no, I have been through so much with my disability, but this is one thing that I can conquer and I can take on, and I might need a little bit of help along the way, but that's all right. We're going to get it done.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
You totally sounded just like Erica when you're like, "No, it's not." I love her.
Oh my gosh. I adore that woman. She's absolutely nuts, but yep.
And when you were on there and you met everybody, it's like you instantly become part of the family, even though you just don't really know them that well. It's like, "Oh, I've known you forever," and didn't even realize it. That's how it was when I first met Erica. It was like, "Oh, I've known you forever, even though I just met you." So, I'm hoping, I know Dawn and I are trying to figure out how to get out to a race with More Hearts and Scars. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm dying."
That would be amazing. I will let you know when my first one is. I'll be like, "You should come to this one. Come on."
I might be able to swing that. When is the wintergreen race? Well,
I am not sure because they changed it on me. And I got so caught up in looking up the Paralympics and getting that on my calendar that I had no. We're going to just real quick.
You're like me. I'm like, what's that going to be?
Exactly. Okay. So it looks like, do they not have their updated thing on here? Oh, wait. Possibly August 23rd. I think. Yes. Okay. So August.
Yeah, that's the same weekend, I think, as Hawaii. I think it's the same weekend.
I think that's maybe an acceptable reason. If I had to choose between Hawaii and Wintergreen, Virginia, I think,
Hawaii, yeah. Yeah, little does my teenager know that, we're going to go for a vacation. We're going to add some racing in with it too, but I think she's kind of used to that with me.
Awesome, oh my gosh. Have you ever been out there before?
I've never been to Hawaii. We were supposed to go this last year, and of course, COVID hit. And so have to change some plans. And so we're trying to plan it out. It'll be like the first major vacation for me and my daughter to go on together. So we take little trips, but this is gonna be the first big trip. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna go big or go home on that one.
Yeah. I've never been, but I bet that, oh my gosh, racing out there would be amazing too.
Yeah, I have some teammates. I know Pretty Mike here from BeastNet. He's gone, oh gosh, I think he's gone almost every year, but last year to Hawaii and raced it. And I've really wanted to go there and race with my team there. I mean, it's Hawaii, why not?
For sure.
Once you get that first race under your belt, I'm going to warn you now, you're going to be hooked and want to do more. It's just a given.
Oh, for it.
So you got the basketball, you're going to have obstacle course racing. What are your other goals and plans and things that you want to do within the next year, next few years when it comes to the healthcare workers who are adaptive athletes and your own personal goals? Where do you kind of see yourself heading?
I definitely think that my main goal is trying to take my Chronically Rye platform and turn that into my full-time job and turn my disability advocacy work and traveling and public speaking and all of that into an actual position and combine all of these loves that I do have, because I guess it was just one of those things that I kind of stumbled into and had no idea until I need to stop being dared to do things. I got dared to come out with more highs and scars. I got dared to do the Miss Wheelchair Virginia pageant. And here we are, and completely changed my life. And like, if you told me that I had a tiara a few years ago, like when they told me that there was a Miss Wheelchair pageant and they asked me to enter, I was like, I'm sorry. I had at the time, I had half my head shaved. I cursed like a sailor and I had covered in tattoos. I'm like, what part of this says pageant girl to you? And they're like, no, it's public speaking, it's advocacy, like you'll be great. I'm like, well, you know what? At that point, my disability, I was in a really low place because my disability had, with my dance, that was my goal. I was going to be a full-time professional dancer. I had gotten into NYU School of Dance, and then I was diagnosed like a few weeks later. So that was the first time that EDS took that from me. And then when it took my, my love of trauma nursing and ER nursing, that was the next time. That was about 10 years later. And so I was at this point in my life when the Miss Wheelchair Virginia pageant came through, and when I met Zach with More Heart Than Scars, where I was just like, I am the lowest I've ever been. I don't have anything left to lose, so why not? And and that's why my inspiration for my platform was mental health, because I wasn't really taking care of my own. I wasn't realizing that how much of a grief process it is, losing your mobility and losing your independence, especially for someone who has been super independent my entire life. And so I was just like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's go. Let's just see what happens. And so far, like I found my niche, and I found that I'm actually kind of good at this, and I'm like getting to do all this public speaking. I was on the cover of an Italian magazine like 2 months ago.
Wow.
Like, I'm sorry, what? I don't speak Italian. Hopefully they said good things. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. What'd you say?
It's just one of those things where I definitely stumbled into all of it. And now I can't imagine my life without my adaptive athletes, without my public speaking, without getting to go and work with these newly disabled patients every single day and being like, you know what, I know that it feels like you cannot wake up in the morning, and it feels like you have absolutely nothing left to live for, and people are taking care of you and you just feel awful, but it gets so much better. And showing them that there are families out there like More Heart Than Scars, there are groups of us like my group Wheel Love, that we will be there for you. You let us know you have a bad day, and like you're at the worst of your worst, you call us, we will all be there. We will be there sitting in your front yard. Like, let's go. Come on. We're going to go for a push. We're going to push down the road. We're just going to talk, and it'll be all right. And it's all these things that I desperately needed as a teenager being diagnosed with my condition. And I know that there are so many other people out there. And through that advocacy and showing these newly disabled people, I'm able to also influence the able-bodied people around them, because, you don't know until you know. I didn't know anything about the disability world until I was in the thick of it, and neither did my family or my friends. And so getting to be that person, and just with my kind of attitude and my personality about life, I'm super laid back, and I'm going to come to you like, all right, look, this is how it is. This is what I need to get around, and here's how we can get there. And I think that's able to affect a lot of change. And so I kind of want to see how far I can take that.
That's fantastic. And you actually have come into a new passion, it sounds like, through your disability. So it's not something that can ever be taken from you because of the diagnosis that you had. You've taken that diagnosis and turned it into a passion and a career. And that's absolutely incredible. I fully agree with you when you say, getting the able-bodied people to understand and see what they presume is a disability as something completely different, because just because that's there does not mean that person is not able to go do things. My mom worked with physically and mentally disabled people from the time I was born to I think I was like 7 when we moved. Um, so I was around the Special Olympics. We went camping, we went bowling, we went swimming, and it was I think those are my strongest memories as a kid was doing all of that. And I'm like, well, there's no limit. There's no limitations unless you put them on yourself or you listen to what others say are going to be your limitations. And it's so awesome to speak with you and others who have what is a presumed limitation and be like, oh, no, 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 no. Let me correct you on that way of thinking. And that's absolutely phenomenal. I think we need more of you out there than the naysayers because you've got kids, you've got adults that just need that different thought pattern that they've been given.
Yeah. And like, I mean, for myself being, I was diagnosed when I was 16. So I was just like, I remember them telling me, hey, like, you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 20. And every like interview or stuff that I do, they're like, oh my gosh, how did that affect you? I'm like, affect me? It didn't. I was a stupid 16-year-old and I thought I was invincible. I'm like, I'm not going to be in a wheelchair. Shut up. No, I'm a dancer. I don't care what you shut. And so like to get to this point now and to kind of see like you said, like kind of influence the able-bodied people around me. Because when I was that age and with that mentality, if you had showed me a lot of like super positive disability advocates that are just like, happy sunshine all the time, I would have laughed in your face and be like, this is not what I want. So my style of advocacy, like on my page, I talk about the down and the dirty and like my good days and my bad days. And like, a couple of weeks ago, like had a workup, had to give a stool sample. I'm like, look, we don't talk about it. No, we're going to talk about why we're doing this. We're going to talk about I have intestinal surgery, like all of it. And I think people who normally don't really benefit from that kind of like advocacy movement see that type of advocacy and they're like, oh, like they're just a normal person that I can talk to like a normal person and I can learn from them and not feel like I have this like holier than thou attitude around me or something.
Yeah.
Totally don't. I'm always like, I might not know the answers to your questions, but like, come on, bring them on. We're going to find out together and it's all right.
That's so amazing. And I think that's the one thing about social media that kind of gets lost in it is everybody, it's the sunshine and daisies, everything's great, everything's perfect. And you got to see both sides of it because not everything is perfect. We all have messy lives. And I think if we were more honest about the messiness in our lives, the view of things wouldn't be so skewed. Like there's more than just the surface of like, oh, everything's perfect. And the fact that you are just down up, straight up, just like, no, 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 no. This is how it is. Like there's good and there's bad. And let me tell you about both. I think that's something that we all need to see more of.
Definitely.
So hopefully August for Wintergreen, you've got the basketball stuff going right now. You got the Miss Virginia wheelchair. What else do you have going on? It seems like you're just so busy. Do you have like a lot of any downtime or?
Most of my downtime, if like the times that I do have it, I'm in the gym just because that's my happy place. That's, it makes me feel good. And that's where I live. And so that's what I've been doing with most of my time. And then I got a TikTok and I learned that I am too old to make TikToks. I pulled all these muscles in my back trying to learn some choreography the other night. I was like, okay, all right. I am too old for this. I cannot know. That's my little like bench. I was like, all right, I can do this. Sure. No.
Yeah, I'm on that as well. And I did it partly because my daughter who just walked in, she told me I couldn't find her on there. And I'm like,
watch me.
Challenge accepted. I found her. I didn't follow her. Like I wasn't going to be that creepy mom, but I found her. But I get so lost in that sometimes. I'm like, oh my, where did the last hour
Scrolling.
go? Yeah, yes.
That's a problem.
And I follow more Hearts and Scars on there and
Oh,
BeastNet.
God.
And so, oh my gosh.
That I got one in the first place because I was out there and he's like, you have to make a TikTok. You have to do it. You have to go like all of mine right now. I'm like, all right, I don't know anything about this app. Now a year later, I'm like, I hate you so much. It is 4 a.m. I am still on this stupid app scrolling. It's hilarious. It's such a problem.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Or I'll be scrolling in the morning. I'm like, okay, I got 10 minutes. I can drink my coffee and I can look. And I usually have headphones on in the morning because I try not to wake everybody up. I think I've woken people up a few times with my cackling because I'm like, I find the funniest thing. Or hold on. We need to get more. Don't kill me. I'll talk to you in a minute. Sorry.
Fine.
So yeah, I've gotten lost on TikTok. I follow Erica on there. I follow Zach. Erica's given me a heart attack a couple times with some of you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Going downstairs doing all kinds of nuts. I'm like, Erica, what are you doing? She always knows too. I'll text her, I'll be like, what are you doing? She's like, so you saw that TikTok, huh? I'm like, yeah, I did. Could you not kill yourself before I get to see you next time? Like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I was watching that. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't just be careful.
Yeah. Basically what it's like hanging out with her at all times. I'm like, no, I'm just not looking. I'm not. She's like, what do you think it's like hanging out with you? I'm like, all right, that's true.
Two peas in a pod.
Oh, I guess I am doing something this year. The beginning of August, I'm competing for Miss Wheelchair America.
Yay!
I keep forgetting that that's a thing because it's been 2 years coming.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Where's that going to be at?
Well, it was until last week going to be in Michigan, but now it is going to be virtual. Okay. And we are figuring that out as far as how we are going to do that. Never done a virtual pageant before. So it'll be interesting, but I'm excited because
that's so awesome.
Get to meet all these other crazy wheelchair users from across the nation and do more advocacy and run my mouth some more. So I'm looking forward to it.
That is so phenomenal. We did that locally. We have a festival every year and they just did the pageant virtually and little weird. I'm like, how's that gonna work? And I think just part of it too is that being with the audience and everything. I'm like, so how? Okay, I'm really curious as to how that's going to work. And if I can watch it, I want to see that just because that's a huge pageant to put on and you're doing it virtually. I'm like, okay, is that going to crash the system? Because that's a lot of people.
Right? So at least I've figured out that if it is virtual, me and like my crew, we're gonna like have a watch party kind of like, so there'll at least be people there for me to be interacting with while they're recording.
That's perfect.
Otherwise it would just be like me alone in my apartment in an evening gown, like hello, how are you? My chihuahua staring at me like, okay, no. Such a problem. So yeah, we're gonna do a little watch party. We'll make it a little more exciting. So
that's awesome. You have somebody to talk to. That's even perfect. You know, instead of like the piped in.
Yes, right. That's the first thing I asked. I'm like, are you guys gonna do we have fake audiences? Is that what's gonna happen? They're like, no. Just checking. Just needed to know.
That throws me off like watching trying to watch baseball this last year because we couldn't go to a game. I tried watching it live and like all of a sudden you hear this, and I'm like, there's okay, you don't need you don't need to put in fake cheering. It's really obvious there's nobody.
I'm thinking about like what it must be like to be on the field in this very quiet stadium.
Right? Like, are they piping? Is that going to be live as well, or
what are we doing? Yeah,
that's awesome. So that's the first part of August for you.
Yes.
Yay! So, where can people find you? I know you said Instagram. Are you on Facebook? What are your handles?
So mine is easy because everywhere is chronically_Rye. It's chronically_RY. And it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And now I just got, what is that? That new app, Clubhouse. I just got a Clubhouse. It's this social media app that's very new, that's all verbal. And so it's very disability friendly. So a lot of the advocacy groups are taking to this, and it's fascinating. And I just got it, so I don't know what I'm doing yet. But it's like people form these like kind of chat rooms, but they're about like a topic, and you see what the topic is, and you're like, oh, I want to go in, and you can either go in and just listen to people talk. I mean, anyone from like celebrities are on there, and you can ask questions, like raise your hand. You can get called up as a speaker. Like the other day, a bunch of my friends and I just had it. We were all in there just hanging out, talking in the Clubhouse app. Yeah. So that
that one's a new one for me too. Interesting. Yeah. I'll have to ask the teenager if she's heard of that one.
Yeah. Instagram is my main one. That's the easiest way to get.
That's the easiest way.
Perfect.
Yay!
The only one I can master. I'll handle one.
Yeah, I'm still trying to master Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm trying to help Dawn out, like slowly start integrating to do more of that stuff. I'm like, okay, is there classes for this? Because I'm kind of old and I need to understand this.
I'm always on YouTube. I'm like, is there a tutorial for this? How do I TikTok? How do I do this? Yeah, that's me.
Right there with you. Well, thank you for coming on and talking with me, and I cannot wait to have you back on after the pageant, after your first Spartan race, because I'm just going to put it out there, you're going to do it. You're going to have that race this year.
Oh, it's happening. Don't not cancel again. It's going.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, and I cannot wait to talk to you again. We can find you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Clubhouse. Yep. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Rye, and can't wait to talk to you again.
Take care.
Yeah.
Does your business need first aid, AED, OSHA, flagging, or other safety training? James Safety Services is your one-stop shop. Find them on Facebook today at James Safety Services WA and ask for a quote on hosting your training needs.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.